I have been thinking a lot lately, and I have come to a very clear conclusion that this is unfortunately going to be the end for Tesla bears and Tesla short sellers and everyone who's betting against Tesla. And I'm going to be here covering this whole disaster that is about to unfold for all Tesla bears and all Tesla shorts. Because Tesla's Robotaxi service just launched on Sunday, and already, so you're saying here, when you all start riding in a Tesla Robotaxi, I think many of you will be surprised by how quickly it starts to feel like normal. And on Monday, this is exactly what happened to Tesla stock. And if you're excited about Tesla, click the like button right now. And I think so far we haven't seen anything yet. We still have a safety passenger in the front from Tesla in the cars. But I said before that I do expect incidents, and we do have one that no one really has reported on yet on YouTube as I'm recording this video. So here's what happened. It looked like the tire touched the parked car right there just now. And then the safety driver climbed into the driver's seat and drove it out. I can't quite for sure say that it actually touched the car. I'm not sure, but they were there and he's saying it touched the car, or it looks like it touched the car. So after the Robotaxi now being live since Sunday, this is the worst thing I can find. To me, that sounds pretty good. It doesn't seem like there's actual damage on the other vehicle. It doesn't seem like there's any. So do we even count this as an accident? So I'm not so sure that it counts as an accident. Also, I'm not quite sure if the car was disengaged by the safety person in the car or not. That's not clear. That's only up for speculation. If the vehicle wasn't disengaged by the person inside, then I would say this is nowhere near as bad as what it seems like. But you know what I can find a lot more of? Good clips like this one. There's so many of these where, for example, the car does something like it moved a little bit to make space for that semi-truck. There's so many of these. The most important things really to keep a track of will be safety critical interventions per mile. That matters the most by far. Also remember that safer than human is just a starting point. Perfection is of course impossible, but a good North Star. And then rate of improvement and how quickly do we expand. And look, some people already have taken tens of rides. For example, here, someone took 31 rides already. People are gonna get used to these Robotaxi rides quickly. And my money is definitely on Tesla, because way more sensors equals way more expenses. But some people are still saying the problem for Tesla is simple. It will have to reinvent its Robotaxi design with lidar and radar sensors if it has any hope of operating safely. There's no one else right now that is operating a Robotaxi network purely just based on the vision approach. Everyone else basically has lidar, and that is just not going to be a solution that's going to compete with Tesla's solution when it comes to scaling quickly later. This certainly is a huge milestone for Tesla, and now knowing that teleoperation is actually, in theory, at least from my understanding, relatively limited, because that car I showed you in the beginning of the video where it supposedly maybe touched the other car, the Tesla person literally got into the driver's seat and then drove out of it. Not a teleoperator drove it out of there. To me, that makes it sound like teleoperation is relatively limited. Because if Tesla really nailed teleoperation, then you would say, oh, well, they would have just used that. And the bulls are bullish. Dan Ice, for example, predicts that in 1 year, there will be 20 to 30 cities covered with robotaxis from Tesla. What are some of the critics saying? Well, James is saying there's a bit of the goalposts moving on both sides here. Bears never thought that Tesla would launch a robotaxi network of any size. For example, Gordon Johnson thought this would be the best thing happening to bears. Tesla launching a robotaxi network, because he thought that Tesla couldn't operate one. Now he's saying that bulls never thought the robotaxi launch would be this small and restricted controlled. That's not correct. I would expect the initial launch to be small and not big, and then eventually Tesla would scale. Now he thinks we landed somewhere in the middle, but all of that is irrelevant. The only thing that's relevant is how fast or not it expands from here. If you're talking weeks, that's very bullish. If you're talking months, very bearish. He's talking about expanding out of Austin. Now Elon is definitely quite a troll, because all of these robotaxi rides were $4.20, and Tesla's VP of Finance is saying that this is Tesla's newest revenue stream. And Tesla bulls are certainly excited. Omar says the Tesla AI team really pulled off the impossible. I think we can say that once Tesla expands a little bit more and the safety passengers from Tesla are gone from the cars. But so far, I am really liking what I'm seeing. And Omar, the more he uses robotaxis, the more impressed he is. And here's one of the most interesting parts. Hailing a Tesla robotaxi is so much faster than hailing an Uber. No need to wait for a driver to approve. You get a ride almost instantly. Now, although Farzad here did say that he had to wait for like a minute for a car to be available for him to hail, but right now Tesla doesn't have thousands of robotaxis, but that's going to change. What is, however, not going to change is Tesla's critics performing as much mental gymnastics as is necessary to avoid assessing anything in context. And certainly we should expect the media and Tesla bears and Tesla shorts try to blow up any mistakes that FSD is going to make, which are inevitable, but it's basically going to be the same thing as what happened with EV fires, you know, supposed to be more common than gasoline vehicle fires, which is actually not true at all. We are going through perhaps the single most important period of time in all of Tesla's history in terms of the growth that is about to happen. And that's saying a lot because Tesla did have some insane growth before. For daily news, Rob Mauer was my favorite YouTuber for Tesla, but for overall insights, Daily was actually my favorite person to watch and listen to. And he's back with some new content right now. And he's saying, the more I take Tesla's Robotaxi, the more I think it's smoother and better than Waymo. And the more I take Waymo, the more I get pessimistic about Uber's long-term future. But to me personally, the most impressive thing when comparing Tesla to other robotaxi services is the Tesla Model Y. You can go to a Tesla's website and buy it right now. And it's basically the same car, the same computer, the same hardware that you are getting. It's not like Waymo, where they take a vehicle and they modify it to the moon and it's almost unrecognizable. In Omar's case here, he says, Tesla Robotaxi is able to drop me off right in front of my Airbnb, but Waymo drops me off across the intersection and makes me walk. I did see, however, one video where someone wanted to be dropped off, but Tesla kept driving for, you know, a good few moments, and then the person had to walk a little bit more than it really would have been necessary. But this is still the beginning. I think Tesla can really sort off all of these issues, no problem. Just give it some more time. The thing that really matters is safety. Is it safe? If yes, then it will expand, and that's what really matters. Everything else, all of these little things will be sorted out. And I certainly agree with this. Uber's days are numbered unless Uber makes a deal with Tesla of some sorts, or other automakers make a deal with Tesla to have Tesla's hardware in their cars, and then those cars then somehow are being used on Uber's network, but Uber would still not be able to undercut Tesla. So no matter really how I think about it, Uber's days are numbered. Unless maybe this one actually is more valid. The government saying there cannot be one company that just takes the whole market. I think that's really the only thing where I go and say, okay, I can see why that would be more of a concern. Everything else is just dreams and fairy tales. The cheapest company, the cheapest service is going to get by far the most market share. Now, in the meantime, however, I definitely do expect a lot of little hiccups or weird things like this one. Right now, Tesla's Robotaxi app always says high service demand when it's unavailable. For example, right now, it's past the midnight cutoff time, but it still says high demand, please come back later. It should say we're closed or the weather is bad, etc., rather than just one message. But technically it is high demand considering no cars are available. So definitely high demand compared to the supply. And I like this post. How many intervention worthy moments have you had? Omar had 0. Also, everyone is really happy about the app, and I remember Gary Black saying that Tesla will not be able to build the app, basically. I'm paraphrasing him a little bit, but basically that was his whole thesis. This was from a while ago now. He has changed his opinion now. But I still remember the days, but he was convinced that Tesla is not going to be able to build the app or make it as good as Uber when it comes to the app. So therefore, Tesla is not going to be able to compete with Uber. I never understood that argument. It's not because I didn't understand it. It's because I just knew it's definitely wrong. But everyone is basically raving overall about the Robotaxi app. The way the app and the car talk to one another is really nice. You can control a lot right from your phone, including temperature and music. And I've seen people basically get from their own Tesla into the Robotaxi, and then their music is just there immediately. All their settings basically are going to transfer. And that's something that I really like. Right now, one of the things that I dislike about taking an Uber is changing the temperature. Like, sure, I can ask, hey, can you change the temperature? But sometimes I can see, you know, the driver is either really sweating and I'm a bit cold. I don't need to really change the temperature, but it would be nice. But I just don't want to make it too inconvenient for the other person. But in a Robotaxi, there's no one else. I just do whatever I want. I mean, just look at this. Who would have possibly thought that Tesla, the tech company, would have a hard time building an app? Now, Gary Black asked, would it be helpful to hear the unfavorable aspects of the Tesla Robotaxi experience as well? And Sawyer shared these here. So pickup experience needs to improve. Sometimes the pickup point is not exactly where the pin is. You also can't adjust the pickup spot in the app, and the car sometimes requires you to walk a bit of a distance to get to it. That's going to be solved later, just a matter of time. They need to enable us to drop a pin within the geofence area for more precise destination choice. Sometimes the app wouldn't let us get picked up at certain destinations on the edge of the geofenced area, even though we're still within the geofenced area. That naturally is going to go away as Tesla expands the geofenced area. And by the way, the geofenced areas, the reason why these used to be so bad for other Robotaxi networks is because they have to map out every single inch in the city with lidar and HD maps. But with Tesla, as far as I understand, there's no such thing as that, basically. Next, you can't click a destination on the map in the app, so you have to type the name of the place or the actual address, which can be annoying. Yeah, I can definitely see that, but I'm sure that's going to be improved soon, especially as the Robotaxi service becomes more popular and as it gets expanded. Sometimes you can't see the service area when you are far away from the actual service area, and the app only shows your most recent 10 rides. I can no longer see my ride history for rides older than that. And Sawyer personally had no issues with the rides themselves, no safety issues, no comfort issues, so I don't have any notes there because my experience was generally great. And that's the consensus. Another thing that blew me away, I was listening to Rob Maurer, and he lives in Chicago, and he said he drove something like 3,500 miles or 4,000 miles, something along those lines. Don't quote me exactly on that, but something like that. And he didn't have any safety critical interventions. I think he had one takeover, but he thought, looking back, it would have been probably fine. He just didn't want to take a chance. And I don't think Tesla has an office in Chicago, do they? And yet it works so well over there. When I hear someone else say, you know, I have driven for 4,000 miles and I had no safety critical interventions, you know, sometimes I think, great, you're probably right. But do I believe that 100%? With Rob, I do believe him 100%. And that's Chicago. And Chicago, I don't think, now I've never been to Chicago, but I know it's a huge city, and I can't imagine it's easy to drive over there. So I was really happy to hear that. And my personal experience, you know, driving in Texas, I think, yeah, I can definitely see that what Rob is saying is true, but I only drove like 1,000 miles over there. Now, some people were concerned a little bit, those who don't have, for example, a rear screen in their Teslas. Will you be able to put your Tesla on a Robotaxi network later because you will have no screen? Will Tesla retrofit something like that? But Omar points out that you don't need a rear screen to give Robotaxi rides. They can use the app instead. The main concern really with Hardware 3 is the actual Hardware 3, which will need to be replaced probably. And Tesla already promised to replace Hardware 3, by the way. But overall, I'm certainly quite impressed with everything that Tesla has achieved here. For example, here, it's handling this construction zone without any issues. And it's a Robotaxi. I don't think anyone is taking over. I don't think anyone is intervening. The car just knows what to do all by itself without anyone telling it what to do. Amazing. Another thing that's actually impressive to me, and it might sound like it's not actually a good thing, but I think so far from what we have seen, this is actually a good thing. Did you notice how long it took for the person from Tesla to click the button to basically intervene? It actually took quite a few moments. Look at this. It wasn't like instant. It took a few moments. It wasn't like immediately. While from the point of view of safety specifically, that's not great, because typically you would want the person who is in control of the vehicle to be able to react like immediately without any delays at all, like instantly. This to me signals and shows that because we haven't seen any accidents, the software is actually working pretty well, because it does take quite a few moments to take over in this case. To me, this is very bullish, even though in this particular case, like how the vehicle reacted, I think even though the UPS driver, I don't think it's doing something that's appropriate, but I mean, people do park like that all the time. So I think the Robotaxi should have backed up a little bit or made space, unless there's someone behind. But I don't, there's probably no one behind. There could be someone, but even if there is someone behind, you always have at least a little bit of space to back up. And my personal take is, having had many takeovers and disengagements, and I have pushed my FSD software to the limit a few times. My experience is, in situations like this, the software never actually crashes, but it just stops at the very last moment when it's very uncomfortable, and the UPS driver, I'm pretty sure, would have then stopped and not hit the vehicle. I think the situation would have been very uncomfortable, but totally fine. And that was the first recorded disengagement so far. And I think Omar is right here. It needs to be 100% intervention free before safety monitor can be removed. And, well, actually, you'll never get to 100%. So just how much risk are you going to accept? Because human drivers, they make mistakes all the time, and people pass away all the time. It happens all the time, every single day. But for now, yes, I think these people from Tesla should still remain in their cars. But there's no reason really for Tesla not to have a lot more Robotaxi, even if that means there is someone inside the vehicle from Tesla. If the software is performing well, Tesla will launch more Robotaxis, even with safety drivers. And Omar is totally right here. That's the thing about the real world. There are drivers who are dangerous and can't park properly. If everyone was a good driver, nobody would crash and we wouldn't need Robotaxi in the first place. The AI needs to be able to handle the long tail of stupidity. It has to assume that other drivers are going to make mistakes, and then you need to react accordingly based on how people make these mistakes, so you don't crash. Although this is a pretty good point too. This would just encourage bad drivers to drive extra aggressively and dangerously when near Robotaxis, knowing Robotaxis will always make way for them. This is obviously counterproductive and make the roads even more dangerous. I don't fully agree with that, but there's definitely a point there. Daily says, I agree that the UPS driver is making an illegal or at least highly dangerous parking move. It suddenly backed into a small parking spot that was half its size. It backed all the way in, and still the entire front of the truck was sticking out into the road. And here's a Robotaxi doing a U-turn, which really is now routine. I'm so happy to look at this video and have it feel boring. If you just go back a few years ago, this would have been the biggest news that you could have. Tesla doing a U-turn without anyone inside the vehicle. I mean, in front of the steering wheel. Now it just feels so routine. And this is great. Absolutely zero issues heading into direct sunlight in our Robotaxi. Been going for almost an hour now during golden hour / sunset. As smooth as it always is. My hardware 3 Tesla does give me problems now. In particular situations, if it's really sunny, if it's like sunset and stuff like that. But my hardware 4 Tesla in Texas, I didn't encounter that. This makes me laugh. Remember when Reuters told you in 2021 that Apple Car was coming very, very soon to eat Tesla's lunch, and they would beat them to launching Robotaxis? I certainly do, and so does Elon Musk. He says, I remember. So what happened to the Apple Car? Well, it has been officially canceled, which took a decade of time just wasted. Wow. And they also spent so much resources on that too. This decision was communicated to employees in February of 2024. And the CEO of Google said that Tesla is going to succeed. So basically, he's saying, Waymo, you're not really going to win this one against Tesla, will you? It's a bit crazy that they would actually say that. I mean, they know that they basically own Waymo. This was before the Robotaxi launch that he said it. Another thing that's really exciting, that, might be delayed, but this Robotaxi launch, once the date was firmly set, it wasn't actually delayed. So maybe this is not going to be delayed either. But we're basically just a few days away from the very first autonomous vehicle delivery from Giga straight to a customer's house if everything goes according to plan. By the way, Tesla is going to release its Q2 delivery and production report about a week from now. And I agree with Sawyer here. In terms of vehicle deliveries, I don't think a report has ever mattered less. Unless in the deliveries, we are now going to start seeing the number of robotaxis operating in the Tesla network. This would be... Still, you could interpret it as a delivery in a way, but that's the number that's going to matter a lot more going forward. So yes, the real story now is robotaxis. They are finally starting to arrive, and so far the service has been a success. Now the question is, how quickly can they expand coverage and scale? If it's quick, it changes everything. My prediction is eventually it is going to be quick. It just quick from what moment? If let's say there are struggles in the foreseeable future, but then Tesla's FSD software becomes so much better after one single update, then quick is going to happen after that moment. But that moment may still take some time until it arrives. One thing that I am sure of, though, is that that moment is definitely coming, and I'm going to be in Tesla stock when it happens. And it might be happening now, basically. And if it's not, I still believe very firmly 100% that Tesla is going to have the cheapest robotaxi service, and because it's going to be the cheapest, how can you beat that? Like, are you going to try to compete against Tesla and make no money forever? Is that what these other companies are going to try to do? I mean, you can keep losing money for a few years, but not forever. And looking at the feedback between Waymo rides and Tesla rides, it's starting to sound to me like, because the Tesla rides are generally smoother and they don't feel robotic, Waymo would have to make their robotaxis substantially cheaper than Tesla's for people to really even consider taking Waymos in the future. Now, yesterday, Uber was actually up 7%, nearing an all-time high, after announcing that Waymo and Uber driverless ride-hailing partnership has expanded to Atlanta, actually. So now they operate in Phoenix, Austin, and Atlanta. Well, Uber investors can enjoy this for a few more moments while it lasts, and it's not going to last. Now, in terms of price and how expensive Waymos are, their 6th generation Zeekrs cost $70,000 to $100,000, including all hardware and software. The 5th generation Waymo Jaguar I-Pace SUVs were $100,000 to $130,000, and Tesla's Model Ys are not even $50,000. And the purpose-built robotaxi, of course, is going to be significantly cheaper than that. I think actually this summarizes everything that's going pretty well. I remember well when the mainstream media tried to convince its readers that the first Model 3s are nothing and will remain a niche, or that the Model Y was just, a bigger Model 3 that no one is going to buy. And today they are trying to do the same with robotaxis. It's not going to work out well. And we got more here from Elon. Optimus V3 is going to be good. Excellent review with Tesla Optimus team that he had just now. And Optimus is already running a Grok voice assistant. Historically speaking, Alex Potter from Piper Sandler, he has had some decent, relatively speaking for Wall Street, predictions for Tesla stock. And he's saying that Tesla could be the sole winner in the auto space. Well, I would say that with robotaxis, Tesla will be the winner in the United States of America. Tesla's robotaxi launch is a milestone with industry-wide implications. As Tesla scales its self-driving software, the auto market is at risk of disruption with fewer cars sold, higher fleet-wide utilization, and a transition to service-based revenue models. We think Tesla will be a consolidator in the process, but we struggle to identify other winners. And check out what's happening to BYD in China. A lot of these companies have been subsidized, and Elon Musk not too long ago said that he doesn't know of a single company that's not Tesla that makes profit selling BEVs, fully battery electric vehicles. They just make money by selling hybrids. And I think he also meant BYD too. And BYD has slowed its production and expansion pace in recent months by reducing shifts at some factories in China and delaying plans to add new production lines. BYD has canceled night shifts and reduced output by at least a third of the capacity at some of its factories. I look at how fast Tesla is moving. It looks like Tesla has updated its Robotaxi app so that you can now see your entire ride history. Before, you could only see your most recent 10 rides. That's fast. Anyway, while some people are going to be paying attention to Tesla's deliveries, I will not be. I mean, I will still look at them. And to some degree, it's still important, but really, I've been saying this all the time, that what matters for Tesla is FSD. And we are now arriving at a moment where more and more people are realizing that. Oh, and Sawyer in total took 20 Robotaxi rides and traveled 92 miles, no interventions, no critical safety issues. All his rides were smooth and comfortable. And some of his rides included direct sun glare. Oh, and we now know that Tesla's Robotaxi will automatically log you out of all of your apps when you exit the vehicle to maintain privacy. That's good. Sawyer also had a deer encounter, and it would be good to now hurry up a little bit and get Elon his new compensation package. Elon clearly remains very active with Tesla, and I'm sure he's pretty happy with everything that's going on right now at Tesla, and he just posted this here as well. It will seem silly that people even thought all that hardware was ever needed. Look at these sensors on these cars. Ugh, look at that monstrosity. And Dave is totally right here. Looking back, it's been less than 1.5 years since Tesla FSD V12 came out with their new end-to-end neural net approach. Truly amazing how fast FSD has improved since then. And now just imagine what Tesla FSD will do in another 18 months from now. End-to-end was the breakthrough we needed, and now we are seeing it being implemented in Tesla's Robotaxi rides. Also, just to be clear, currently Tesla uses FSD v13.3 in its Robotaxis, which is not publicly available, and it's not the 4.5 times larger model. That's a few months away, so Tesla's Robotaxis are going to have a clear improvement once that bigger model gets deployed. Also, that v13.3 version will come to the rest of the fleet as an FSD supervised release. Today, Tesla stock is trading a little bit higher than where it closed before the Robotaxi launch happened. I expect a lot of volatility. I eventually expect to see a huge accident involving a Tesla Robotaxi, and probably that day the stock is going to crash, and that day I am going to buy more Tesla stock. And I believe that Tesla stock is going to $1,000 per share. And then after that, well above it. My name is Matt Pochius. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. And I will be back with another video probably on Friday. See you then.